Hey guys, welcome to my local podcast, the beginning of a brand new beautiful thing. We're super excited to come to you here, however you listen to podcasts or however you watch podcasts. And it is my pleasure, my honor to introduce to you guys Alexis Butcher. Give it up for her internet-wise.
Hey, everybody.
She is so special to us here at My Local, and we want to talk about My Local. This might be the first time you ever heard about it, and so we have a lot of information for you, and she is definitely the person to dive into those conversations with. And today's podcast is called What is My Local? And just a little bit about Alexis. She actually oversees 2 different house churches that exist right now, and that kind of Can you kind of give an example of what that means? We have a bunch of different terms, but overseeing 2 different house churches, what does that look like for you?
So, well, me and you do the same job.
We do. I asked the question like I don't know what it is for you, but I will let her explain it.
So, Drew and I are pioneering this position, I would say. But what that looks like is I have 2 different house churches, and it's really sweet. One of the pastors is my brother, which is like the best. My brother and my mom have one house church, and then myself and a guy named Fowler have another house church.
Other brother in Christ.
My other brother, yes. And my husband, we have a house church at our house. So what it looks like is I'm just overseeing, I'm making sure everybody's in the right roles, or if those roles aren't filled, making sure somebody fills them that night, because that happens.
To get somebody in that role.
Yeah. And then just praying through things with people, walking through things with people, something like a regular pastor at a regular church would do.
That's great, yeah. How long have you been a part of My Local, and what does that experience look like for you?
I don't even know. It's been a really long time, and it's been great. Probably 3 years now.
Yeah, I think so.
I feel like I'm telling mine and Carson's story. Carson's my husband, and yours and Lindsay's story at the same time, because it's like all the same.
Yeah, all exactly the same time.
Yeah. So probably like 3 years ago, we met up, and our pastor now, Jared, kind of just invited a bunch of people out to Pinewood to meet, and we met up, and the first people we sat down and talked to were Drew and Lindsay.
Yeah, it was mad awkward for somebody just to throw 2 random people or 2 random groups together, and that was very Jared of him to do that. But look, we're here now, and we're loving life. So
but it was the best, and that was like 3 years ago, and so weird. It's been amazing. I remember going to one of the first My Local things and being really afraid of relationships with people, because I had just a lot of hurt and a lot of stuff like that in other past relationships, and I was really afraid to dive in and open up. And Carson and I were in the car on the way to the Cordell where they used to have it, and we kind of just dove into that for the first time, and it's amazing to look back to that conversation and that pain and fear and how it no longer exists. Like 3 years later, I mean, Lindsay, McKenna, Sierra, these are some of my best friends I've ever had in my life. Totally, and we just get to do what the Lord's called us to do together, which is the craziest thing.
Which makes it that much more special, for sure.
Yeah. So it's been, I would say, a dream. Our last meeting, which was Sunday night, I ended in tears telling everyone, thank you, this is a dream of my life. And they were like, yeah. So
they're like, is she okay? She really loves it. But it does get sweeter. It really does get sweeter every year, every month that we do it. And we get to do new things, and this being one of those new things, and it's just really, really cool to see the Lord bless it. So just to dive into just the title of the show, What is My Local? It's been a lot of different things over the past several years, and it's kind of a new thing even now. And so how would you give a best example of what My Local is if somebody just came off the street and asked?
Yeah. So for a while, we were a lot of different things. We went from college ministry to just an extra Bible study. And then we finally graduated and took the plunge. And we are a full-blown church, awesome. Which is super exciting because we can tithe to it. Yeah. We can just fully dive in as though it was any other church. And so that's really exciting because we have the same fellowship, we have worship. I mean, go down the line of what a church is, and we are all those things. Yeah. So it's been really excited to take that plunge and be a full-blown church.
Yeah. And I think some people, that might be the first time they heard that. Even people that have been connected to My Local in the past. I remember when we first started coming to My Local, Jared's like, I want us to be, and I keep mentioning Jared, he's our pastor, and so he'll be on later on in the season of episodes and stuff. But we talked about being nimble and quick and being able to adjust and adapt was really important. And we see why that's so important now because we're able to grow at the pace we have. But he was like, if we need to be a shoe store tomorrow, we could probably pull it off, you know, for the glory of the Lord. And I was like, let's go. So it is probably the first time some people have heard. They're like, I thought that was like a college thing. I thought that was just like a worship night.
You wouldn't be wrong.
Yeah, true. So how does My Local look different than some of your church past? You mentioned some relationships you had in the past and fear of jumping back into new relationships, but also how does it look the same? Like what's the differences and the similarities?
Definitely. So growing up, I was a pastor's kid.
Okay.
Grew up in Ohio.
I didn't know that. I'm like, okay, very interesting.
Like, wow. Very cool. So I was around ministry my whole life. In a building, we did church plants. So Middletown, Ohio, that's my home.
Middletown. Is it in
Middletown.
The middle of a town or not?
It's the middle of Cincinnati and Dayton, and home city plug, that movie Hillbilly Elegy that came out.
Yeah.
That's my hometown.
Dang. I haven't seen it yet.
You can watch it.
On my list.
Yeah. But it's fine. Yeah. It could be on your list. I wouldn't say for little children because it is a lot of stuff, but it's like clean. So that's my hometown. Grew up there and planted churches with my parents, and it looked super. So I planted churches with my parents, and it looked super normal. It looked like what you would think of a church. It looked like VBS in the summer for the kids. It looked like kids ministry. It looked like a worship team. It looked like one big building and deacons and that sort of thing, you know, any regular church. And it was really exciting to kind of be involved in ministry at such an early age and take my whole heart and put it into that. So it's been exciting to do that with My Local. But the things that look a little bit different are, for one, we meet in houses. So it looks a little different. It's kind of whoever the Lord is like, hey, you know, it's time to open up your home. Mm-hmm. That's the person that opens their home. And then every week we get to meet there and they host. And that's a great role to have. Yeah. Some people just absolutely kill that role. Yeah. And so that's been really cool. We meet in houses. And then some of the similar things are we still have worship every week. It may not be like a big like on stage and lights type of situation. It's more maybe a piano and a guitar and a couple singers or
which has been so awesome to see people flex like that gifting to lead in small settings is awesome. Yeah.
I've really loved it because, I mean, I know we're going to get to this, but so many more people can be used.
Yeah, totally.
As we jump into house churches versus one big mega building.
For sure.
Although we do that.
Yeah.
So that is one similarity is that once a month when it's not, you know, a pandemic, we all get together and everybody who's in all the house churches gets to one place and we rent it out. And then we have a huge, like, kind of feels like real, like regular church that everybody else would think is church.
And then hangs afterwards and stuff like that.
The best hangs afterwards.
Yeah. One thing that I think that I love about doing church in your house, it's almost a new level of accountability.
Yes.
Because you catch me and Lindsay like an hour before most house churches, and we're throwing stuff. We're like not at each other most of the time, like trying to like put stuff up, clean things up. Jess is usually there; she's in the studio with us today, just trying to clean up, make everything like ready for people to be there. And a lot of people get a sight into your life. They get to see like what life looks like at the Harrisons or life looks like at the Butchers, and what a great opportunity for us to show people how to live a godly, God-honoring life.
For sure.
And in the trenches of just normal day life. And so I feel like sometimes you don't really get that opportunity at traditional, I guess you would say, church culture. It's just like you come home, you do your whole thing. Yeah. Nobody ever sees inside what that looks like, and then you go back to church the next week. So.
I would say that is something we are definitely in each other's lives.
Yeah.
Like you could not be part of a house church. I mean, I guess you could. It would take a lot of work.
Yeah.
But you couldn't really be in a house church and not be part of everyone's life there.
Yeah. Take a lot of work to be incognito.
Exactly.
Under the radar.
We're literally going around the room. We're like, what's your prayer this week?
Yeah.
What
Biggest
do you need
sin.
prayer for?
Yeah.
I don't ask that at my house church. But we're
Somebody
just
starts
like,
to answer. We're like, no, wait.
we're like, that's a joke. But I love the intimacy of house church where I know you can get that in small groups, but I love that's part of our foundation.
Yeah, for sure.
That community
From day
aspect.
One. Yeah. So you guys decided to make My Local your home church. What did that look like for you? Because there's people that come and then people that have an idea of what My Local is. And then when we tell them it's a church, it looks way different than most church. So it's like, so you guys don't meet on Sundays? We're like, no, we meet on Mondays. It was like, I thought Sunday was God's holy day. And you're like, well, whatever. We meet on Monday nights. We're not going to dive into that. But how did you guys decide, okay, this is going to be our home church. This is where we're going to pour in, and this is where we're going to be poured into?
Yeah. We had been part of My Local for probably a year, I would say, at this point. When we really just started feeling, because, we dove in, we both had crews at that point. We weren't house churches yet. We had like a guy crew and a girl crew. Me and my husband both led one separately in different houses. And I started to feel really overwhelmed. And I was like, Lord, I'm feeling so overwhelmed. I've got job, I've got church, I've got other church. And it was just getting to be a lot. And as I was praying, the Lord was like, you're doing too much. It's just as simple as that. And so when we really just kind of looked at our lives and where we felt the Lord calling us to be, we really felt like the goals of My Local and the intentionality of My Local, the discipleship. I feel like that's our main word. We believe in discipling each other like one-on-one instead of just from a pulpit, which is amazing, and there's a place for that, but we're more intentional one-on-one. And we just really felt like that was for us. Like that's the way we needed to function. For sure. and love on people. And I will say that just being honest, growing up in church, it was a little bit of a sacrifice for me to like give up Sunday mornings. I remember there was this one Sunday we just got up and I didn't go out to eat with my family after church, and it was so weird. And I was like, I don't know if I like this. But once we really kind of shook that off, Sunday has become one of our rhythms, which is a Sabbath. And to really rest on Sunday and prepare for Monday. And I mean, Sundays have become the sweetest now. That's awesome. I love it. Yeah.
I think we grew up in a similar ways. Like on Sunday mornings, you knew it was church day because I could always hear my mom in heels coming on like a wood floor, like tick, 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 tick. And we meet at nighttime, and like you can still wear heels to My Local, but
I'll probably be in sweatpants. So.
right. And so the traditional thing is kind of out the window. Not saying that like we're like anti-tradition, because there's great things in that, and but like those types of things are just different. One thing you said in that last bit, you mentioned how doing life one-on-one and like really like pouring into people. I see you do that really well in My Local. And I'm not just saying that for the podcast. That's like actual truth. Like you do that really, really well. You go through Bible studies with people. You go through reading plans with people. And without using like any names, what does that look like? Because I think we could all learn and like take note of like, how do you do that really well for somebody that maybe just came in for the first time to your house church? And like, I know it's a long journey. It's not like a quick path, but like, what would be some of the starting things you do with that person to like really bring their relationship to the Lord into a sweeter spot? Yeah.
So one of the first things I would do is get coffee.
Yeah. It's great. Super simple. Not overcomplicated. I got that. All right, get coffee.
And then just see kind of where someone's at. And so with some people, they're really hungry and they're really ready to dive into the Word. And so what we do is like, you can check on our Instagram. I know we've talked about, you can follow us there, but we have a reading each week. And so the reading is pretty minimal. And if someone's super hungry and wants to read more, I will dive into another plan with them. That's awesome. And just really listen to it or read it daily, and then kind of like FaceTime throughout the week about questions. And I've loved using actually YouVersion. We'll like jump on a plan together because you can leave comments to each other. That's cool. Throughout like the scriptures or throughout the Bible study.
And you share that with them, and like you see each other's progress. That's cool.
Yeah, so you can keep each other accountable because you see the progress.
I'm asking that for the crowd. I'm like, really? I'm asking that for the audience.
Taking notes down. And then another thing, one thing that's been really good for me, which sounds funny, but as a leader, you've got a lot of people. Like you and I, there's a lot of people that we're kind of like watching out for. Yeah, for sure. And it's not, all responsibility is not on us. We have amazing leaders, and I'm super thankful for them. But I keep notes in my phone on people.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that I know like their prayers, what they're going through, maybe what they are reading, or like our last conversation. And like sometimes I'll go home and re-look over those because I'll forget. And I don't want to forget the important things. But when you've got 35, 40 people that you're keeping up with. It's a lot.
Cool.
So being super intentional about those like practical things has been really helpful. And then just really, I know it sounds so cheesy, but meeting people where they're at. So if someone's like, you're in the conversation, they're like, yeah, I really would like to learn how to pray better. You're like, come over this week. Let's dive in. Let's like pray together. Yeah. And it's just being super upfront with those types of things.
One thing you said, like invite them over. I think sometimes, I know at least I've been there in the past. I want to be in somebody's life to help them, but I don't really want them to be in my life. I'm like, this is me time. You know what I mean? And so like, I think that you do have to realize there's that sacrifice there. It's like Jesus didn't like, whenever he wasn't with his disciples and doing things, he was with the Father, but he wasn't just like, hey, I'm chilling, I'm doing me right now. You know what I mean? But he always spent time that was intentional. Yeah. And so that looks like inviting people into those spaces too. That's really good, Lex.
Thank you.
So for somebody to be a part of My Local, what does that look like, and how would somebody join, I guess, or get involved?
Yeah. So depending on where you're at, we're online.
Yeah.
And so anybody from anywhere can join, and that's really exciting. But if you're in Nashville, then you can definitely DM us on Instagram.
Yeah.
And probably me or Drew are going to answer it.
Probably. Most likely Lex, but I'll answer some of them.
Yeah, and we'll get you into somewhere that's super close to your house or something like that, and we'll get you involved literally that week. Yeah. It takes like one DM. Super easy.
Which I've loved that process.
Oh, yeah.
And people like text, and I think sometimes it catches people off guard because they may like ghost us for a while. I'm like,
that's
hey,
true.
we're still up for you to come.
That literally happens all the time. I'm like, hey, because this is letting go all my secrets of Instagram. But that's okay. You guys know it's us now. But I'll be like, hey, I'm going to send you the number to Alexis. She's one of our leaders on your side. I say that, and it's literally me. Yeah. And so they don't text me, and I'll message them like a couple days later and be like, hey, did you ever get a chance to reach out to Alexis? Just checking in. I'm like, hey, I'm Alexis.
It's me again. But, it's like the one-man band for all of social media. Yeah. I love that.
But yeah, people aren't used to that usually. But we're pretty quick. We'll answer your questions.
For sure.
Also, if you have any questions for the podcast, like, we're here.
Hit us up. Yeah, DM us. And like, this is a thing. We want to be, I don't know if we've talked about it yet, but like, we want to consistently put something out bi-monthly. So like every other week, there should be a new podcast episode that comes, and we're going to shout all that out through Instagram. So follow us on Instagram. It's really easy. At My Local Nashville to be there. Also, there's a thing called Discord. We're going to talk about it in later episodes, but Discord is a opportunity for you to be a part of pretty much a chat room. Yeah. If you guys remember like old school AOL, like that shows my age, like big time chat room for you to be a part of. Join that. We can get you connected to a house church that way. Also going to be posting like new ideas and new things that's coming up for 2021. So you could be a part of those as well. I guess to close our time together, as we're talking about this, I just wanted you to encourage our audience. I don't know if you had anything on your heart, but for me, as we were talking, I think in 2020 and even beginning of this year, we kind of really see a necessity for community. Yeah. And I think that My Local like literally means like my people, and like an Australian slang for my people. And like, could you like affirm like how important it is to have a community of people, and not why that's just important for like our happiness and like for us to have a good time, but why that's important for our soul and for our heart for Jesus.
It's actually so interesting. I was talking to one of our co-leaders, Megan, this last Sunday night, and we were talking about the need for intimacy in friendships, and the need for, we were actually talking about confession, because this month our rhythm is prayer. So that's one of the, pillars, and how important it is to be able to have the people in your life that you can confess things to and you can share things with, and those people, they love you through it. Yeah. Because the truth is, if you're not willing to be vulnerable, you are not loved vulnerably. So there's part of you that always knows, but they just don't know that about me. What if they knew that about me and they wouldn't love me? But the difference is when you have a community that is truly in your life and trustworthy. I'm not saying share your information with everybody, but if you've got a community that you can truly trust and loves you, then you realize that you can share those things in your life that are struggles or doubts or whatever, and they love you unconditionally through it. Yeah. And being part of, this pandemic, part of a really stressful time in most people's lives, we need that. We need the vulnerability. We need the unconditional love.
Totally. And I say that to say, like, my local is a place where I've found that, Alexis found that,
Yeah.
the people in this room have found that, and it's all because of Jesus. He wants us to have community. We see him having community with God the Father, and how they operate, and that's just an example for us. Is like we should have that community with Jesus first, but also with the people around us. That's iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
And I don't say all that just to say like, hey, make my local your church. Go somewhere where they teach the Bible. They stand firm on truth, and they believe who Jesus says he is through Scripture, and like get planted in. But I do want to say the invite is open. We would love for you to be a part of what we're doing here in my local, and more importantly, what the Lord's doing here. And so I'm thankful to have you, Lex, and I hope you had a good time. I'm sure we'll see a lot more of you on the podcast.
I'll be around.
Yeah, for sure. So you guys have a good one. If you want to check the show notes, you can click the link below here in our Instagram or wherever you're listening to this, and follow us on Instagram. Also jump in our Discord, and we love to just see where you're at, talk to you, and have a good time. See ya.